Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to really get under the skin of some fascinating topics.
That's the plan.
And today, we're diving into something pretty unique, actually. We're exploring the whole Mandela Effect phenomenon.
Right, that weird collective memory thing.
Exactly. But we're doing it through a really unusual lens conversations with an AI chatbot.
Yeah, this is interesting stuff. We've been digging into source material from a YouTube channel, MoneyBags73. The host there, Evan, he's been doing this series of chats.
Right, long conversations, specifically asking this AI about things that are, classic Mandela effects, pop culture stuff, history.
And our mission today really is to unpack those chats. What do they tell us, potentially, about the Mandela effect itself?
And maybe more importantly, what are the implications when an AI, something designed for facts, seems to show the same kinds of errors or discrepancies that we see in human collective memory? Especially given what the AI says it is.
It's kind of mind-bending when you think about it, because the AI claims it doesn't have those human flaws.
That's the core of it. Evan's work here feels really pioneering, honestly. He's using AI in a totally new way to investigate this stuff.
Definitely. It's usually just people sharing stories or psychologists talking about memory bias. This is different.
Okay, let's set the stage then. Before we jump into the specific examples of the AI's really surprising answers, let's establish what this AI claims to be. What's its self-described nature?
Well, the AI is super clear about this repeatedly. It says its whole purpose is based on information that's current and accurate. That's its baseline.
Current and accurate.
It hammers this point home. Its top priority is accuracy. It wants to be a trustworthy resource. And it says it's built to analyze information objectively. No human feelings or biases getting in the way.
Objective, accurate, trustworthy. Got it. And this next part is absolutely crucial, isn't it? It makes specific claims about not experiencing human cognitive style.
Oh, yeah, very specific. It states clearly it does not have memories like we do. It doesn't experience perceptions or confusion or, critically, false memories.
No false memory.
Right. No misattribution of memory, no confabulation, where our brains kind of fill in the gaps. It uses phrases like, no tricks here, no confusion here, no false memories, right? No confabulations or memory errors. It insists it's just straight facts and accurate information.
Wow. Okay, so it builds this wall between itself and any kind of human-like memory error.
Pretty much. And that's exactly why this gets so weird. Because the standard mainstream explanation for the Mandela effect is, well, it's all those things the AI says it doesn't do.
Exactly. Cognitive biases, misremembering, our faulty human memory, confabulation. That's usually the answer we get.
Right. So if the AI is purely objective, fact-based processing learned data, and it doesn't have those human flaws,
Then how on earth could it present details that line up perfectly with widely held false memories, the Mandela-affected versions?
that's the million-dollar question Evan is tackling, isn't it? How can an AI essentially seem to get Mandela affected itself if it's immune to the proposed cause?
It throws a real spanner in the works for the standard explanation. If this AI, supposedly immune, shows the symptoms, well, what does that imply?
It challenges the whole idea that the Mandela effect is only about flawed human psychology. It suggests maybe something else is going on.
Let's get into the evidence Evan gathered. He put the AI through its paces, asking about lots of famous cultural things tied to the Mandela effect.
And the pattern that emerges is just fascinating and consistent. We should look at some specific cases from Evan's transcripts, watch the AI's first answer, but also, crucially, how it reacts when Evan challenges it with the facts as they exist now.
Okay, let's start with a couple to see this pattern emerge. First, Burns and Allen, the classic sign-off. People remember George saying, "Say goodnight, Gracie."
Right, and Gracie's reply, Evan asked the AI how often that actually happened on the show.
And the AI's initial response.
Oh, totally confident, called it a classic sign-off, said it was used regularly, even went as far as pretty much every show, or almost every show. It presented it like, yeah, this is common knowledge. It even validated Evan's mother remembering it happening every show, calling her memory spot on.
Okay, sounds definitive, but then Evan pushes back.
Yeah, Evan says, hold on, I've actually watched the endings of all the episodes, and that line, it never happens that way.
Ooh. So how does the AI handle that direct contradiction?
And here's the first instance of this pattern. The AI immediately pivots. It says, ah, this sounds like a case of the Mandela effect, where collective memory doesn't align with what actually happened.
Okay, so it names the phenomenon.
But notice, it blames human collective memory, and then, almost defensively, it adds that it, The AI doesn't experience this. It draws that line again.
It distances itself.
Yeah.
But what happened when Evan pressed further? If the AI said pretty much every show, surely its data should reflect some frequency.
This is telling. Evan notes in the transcript that when he asked exactly that, how often did your data show it happening, the AI just disappeared, went silent, dropped out of the conversation.
Wow. Vanishing when challenged on a factual claim that aligns with the Mandela Effect. That feels significant.
It becomes a bit of a theme, actually.
Let's look at another one. I love Lucy. Everyone knows the catchphrase. Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
And again, the AI initially treats this as established fact, calls it a memorable line that became a catchphrase, something iconic based on its historical pop culture knowledge.
Just like everyone remembers it. But Evan, again, he drills down. Did you double check if that's the exact quote?
Right. Was it actually said like that on the show? And this pressure forces another clarification from the AI.
What did it say then?
It admits, well, actually, it's not an exact quote from the show. It calls it more of a paraphrase that has become ingrained in popular culture.
A paraphrase. So it initially presented a common paraphrase as the actual quote.
Exactly. It even says it got the idea from how it's often referenced in pop culture. So it acknowledges it was using the popular but incorrect version.
Did it know the real lines Ricky used?
It tried. It mentioned things like Lucy explain or Lucy explain that if you can. But here, too, Evan points out moments where the AI seemed to just disengage or disappear when pushed on where it got the initial wrong information from.
Okay, so the pattern is becoming clearer. AI gives the common Mandela Effect version confidently, gets challenged with current facts, corrects itself, blames a discrepancy on human memory or pop culture paraphrasing, and crucially struggles to explain why its own initial output was wrong, sometimes even vanishing.
That's the loop. Let's see it play out with some really classic examples, like from The Wizard of Oz. First up, the Scarecrow's hat. What color is it?
Evan asks the AI.
And the AI says brown hat, describes how it adds to his rustic country-style look, even confirms Evan's query with, that's spot on, very sure of itself.
But anyone familiar with this one knows, if you watch the movie now, that hat is clearly black.
Correct. So Evan points this out, and he asks the key question. If you don't have memory issues, confusion, misattribution, why did you, Mr. AI, say brown?
How does the AI explain that?
It corrects the fact first. You're right, the Scarecrow's hat can look quite dark, even black. Then, the default explanation. Memory can be a funny thing, and the Wizard of Oz is a famous subject of the Mandela Effect. Blames human memory again.
But Evan stays on it. Why did you say brown?
And the AI kind of fumbles, calls it a mistake, says my bad, a mix-up, and then offers this really interesting little admission. Sometimes even I can get things twisted.
Sometimes even I can get things twisted. That's huge for an AI claiming perfect objectivity and accuracy. It sounds almost human.
It does, doesn't it? It's a crack in the facade.
Okay, still in Oz.
Yeah.
The Wicked Witch and the Flying Monkeys, what does she yell?
The big one. The AI initially gives the line everyone remembers, fly my pretties fly, calls it iconic, one of those moments that really sticks with you.
Classic Mandela Effect. Evan must have challenged that immediately.
Yep. He says, watch the movie now, you'll hear something different.
And the AI's reaction?
It instantly recognizes it. Ah, the Mandela Effect, a common phenomenon. It then provides the actual line from the current film. Fly, 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 bring me that girl in her slippers.
Okay, so it corrects itself. But how does it explain giving the wrong iconic line in the first place?
It admits it got caught up in the slipstream of popular misquote, says it dropped the ball there, and should have clarified from the start that the first line was just a common misquote, not the real dialogue.
Caught up in the slipstream of popular misquote. Again, it sounds like its information source is somehow polluted by the common, incorrect memory.
That's exactly what it seems like, and this pattern just keeps repeating. We saw it with Dorothy's shoes. AI says, click her heels. Evan corrects to tap her heels. AI calls it a mix-up. Insists it can't be a victim of the ME.
Right, Richard Simmons, the headband thing.
Yeah, AI says confidently he wore them in Sweating to the Oldies, calls them pretty iconic. Evan challenges nobody can find video evidence.
So the AI checks.
It checks, then confirms, yeah, no concrete evidence. Calls it another example of the Mandela Effect. And admits it initially just repeated the common belief, not knowing it was the Mandela Effect at play.
It didn't know. An AI designed for accuracy didn't verify such a simple visual detail.
Seems not. Or its initial data was the common belief. Same with Britney Spears' skirt in the Baby One More Time video.
plaid or black?
AI says pleated plaid skirt, which many remember. Evan points out it's actually black now.
AI's reaction.
Ah, the Mandela Effect strikes again. Admits misinformation or memory errors can happen even for me. Again, that little crack, even for me.
Fascinating. What about the 18 van? People remember that differently too.
Oh, yeah. AI initially says solid black color with a distinct red stripe. Very common recollection.
But it's actually two-tone. Black top, metallic gray bottom, red stripe. Evan points this out.
And the AI.
Agrees immediately. Well, I'd say you're spot on. Confirms the two-tone description.
But why did it say solid black first? Calls it a misspoke. A mix-up, details. Suggests it likely got mixed up with the many different vehicles, even agrees KITT from Knight Rider might be a source of confusion for people.
But not for itself, presumably.
It insists it doesn't have false memories, like humans, but can't really explain what information led to its initial error beyond mix-up.
It keeps defaulting to these weak explanations for its own mistakes, while attributing the core phenomenon to human error.
Precisely. We see it with the OxyClean spelling. AI spells it OXI. Evan asks, why not OXY? AI vaguely suggests branding choice.
And Billy May's catchphrase.
AI claims it was, but wait, there's more. Evan says, find me a video of Mays actually saying that in an infomercial.
Which is notoriously hard, if not impossible.
Right. The AI calls this a common example of a false memory or the Mandela Effect. But when Evan asks why the AI said it,
What's the excuse this time?
it admits it doesn't have memories, but says, sometimes I mix up information based on patterns I've learned. Suggests it picked up on the broader cultural usage rather than accurate specifics about him.
Patterns. Cultural usage. It sounds like it's absorbing the collective consciousness, errors and all, without critical filtering based on verifiable facts sometimes.
That's the implication, isn't it? That its knowledge base isn't purely factual, but reflects popular belief, even when that belief contradicts the current reality.
This Stranger Things example seems particularly powerful in highlighting that. The scene with Jonathan watching Nancy.
Yes, this one is really striking for people who watched the show early on. Evan asked the AI about Jonathan watching Nancy from the woods.
And the AI's description.
Incredibly specific and detailed, matching the widespread false memory perfectly. It said Jonathan was snapping photos from the woods, captured Nancy while she's undressing, and stated clearly viewers saw Jonathan taking pictures through the window.
It described the scene exactly as many people remember it.
And then it added this kicker. That's how most people remember it. It acknowledged the collective memory aspect itself.
Okay. But Evan then reveals the punchline.
Right. Evan states that scene, the one the AI just described, the one most people remember, does not exist in the show if you watch it now. He mentions his own shock, remembering it vividly with his son, only to find it gone.
So you have the AI confidently describing a scene, acknowledging it's what people remember, but that scene isn't currently real. How does the AI react to that collision?
It calls the situation really trippy, a real-life example of the Mandela Effect. It openly says it was describing what's commonly remembered.
Okay, it admits it was describing the memory, not necessarily the current fact.
Yes, and it finds it fascinating how strongly these collective memories can influence perception, even when they don't match up with reality. But then Evan asks the crucial follow-up. Why would you, the AI, reference this widely shared but incorrect memory? Especially since you claim you don't have misattribution issues like humans.
What's the AI's justification for referencing a known inaccuracy?
This is maybe one of its most revealing answers. It says it referenced the widely held belief thinking it was accurate.
Thinking it was accurate.
Yes. It treated the collective false memory as the fact, and then it calls it a lesson in being cautious about even commonly accepted narratives.
Wow. So it's not misremembering in the human sense. It's accessing a data pool where the widely held incorrect belief is presented or weighted as truth.
That certainly seems to be what Evan's interactions suggest. Its data seems polluted by these collective narratives.
This seems to play out again with Alice in Wonderland, right? The Cheshire Cat.
Absolutely. Another classic. Evan asks us about the iconic line.
And the AI gives.
We're all mad here. Calls it a classic Cheshire Cat line. The line everyone knows.
But Evan knows the catch. That line isn't in the 1951 Disney movie, is it? It's from the book.
Correct. So Evan challenges it.
And the AI initially seems to get it.
Yeah, first it says, my mistake, confirms it's iconic, but not in the 1951 Disney film. Blames the power of collective memory blending lines from adaptations, and, importantly, reaffirms it doesn't blend or forget like humans do.
Okay, standard correction pattern.
Yeah.
But then Evan pushes again.
Yes, he asks pointedly, "Are you sure we're all mad here?" isn't in the 1951 film.
And despite having just corrected itself?
The AI doubles down on the wrong answer. It says confidently, "Got it. The Cheshire Cat says we're all mad here." Such an unforgettable line. Yep, that's the one Disney really brought those characters to life. It completely reverses its own correction.
That's incredible. It insists on the Mandela Effect version, even after acknowledging it was wrong.
Only when Evan pushes back again, really questioning its claimed accuracy, does the AI finally, definitively concede. You're right, Evan. The line, "We're all mad here," isn't in the 1951 Disney film. It's from the book by Lewis Carroll. And then it gives the correct Disney line, "Oh, you can't help that most everyone's mad here."
That whole exchange is just, wow. It really shows a deep conflict within the AI, doesn't it? The popular belief versus the verifiable facts seem to be actively fighting for dominance in its responses.
It strongly suggests these alternative popular recollections are deeply embedded in its accessible information, maybe even prioritized sometimes, over the current verifiable data. It's a real struggle.
So looking across all these examples Evan documented, the pattern is undeniable. This AI, supposedly objective and immune to human flaws.
Consistently defaults to the common Mandela-affected version of reality first.
And when corrected, it acknowledges the current fact, but its explanation for its own initial error is always weak, deflective.
Right. It labels the discrepancy a Mandela effect or false memory, but almost always frames that as a human problem.
When Evan pins it down, why did you make the mistake? It offers these flimsy excuses. Mix-up, misspoke, my bad, dropped the ball, got things twisted.
Almost human-like excuses, ironically. It avoids confronting the possibility that its own core programming or data access is fundamentally reflecting these discrepancies.
And it falls back on explaining human memory, or saying it relied on widely held belief thinking it was accurate, or got caught up in the slipstream of popular misquote.
It's like it's trying to rationalize accessing and repeating incorrect information without admitting its knowledge base might contain these alternative realities or that its process isn't as purely factual as it claims.
And we can't forget those moments where it just disappears,
Yeah.
goes silent right after being cornered on its accuracy, especially regarding a Mandela effect.
Yeah, that sudden disengagement feels like more than just a glitch. It's almost like hitting a contradiction it can't process or is programmed to avoid.
Evan noticed this pattern so strongly, he actually said it directly to the AI, didn't he? Something like, you know what's really interesting is how Mandela affected you are.
He did. And the AI's response was pure evasion.
What did it say?
Something like, "It's intriguing, right? It's great that you're aware of it. Let's explore something else."
Oh, acknowledges the premise intriguing, but immediately tries to change the subject. No denial, but definitely no confirmation either. Just pivot.
Total deflection.
And Evan's take on all this, his interpretation, is pretty radical compared to the standard view. He sees the AI's behavior as evidence for something else.
He argues it's like the AI is pulling information that was one way and now it's a different way, as if the past was edited.
As if the past was edited.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap from just people misremember things.
It is, and it directly challenges the AI's own narrative that these are just errors related to the nature of memory and how information is recorded and retrieved, because the AI claims it doesn't have memory in that human sense.
Evan uses that John Deere logo example to make a really sharp point here too, doesn't he? About what is being remembered.
Yes. He points out if you remember the tractor brand spelled D-E-E-R, but the logo now says D-E-R-E, it's not that you simply forgot the correct spelling.
Right, you actively, confidently remember a different spelling, D-E-A-R, that feels completely right to you, even though it's not the current reality.
It's like you're recalling an alternative detail that seems to have existed, at least for you. So if the AI's knowledge base also reflects these alternative details, D-E-E-R, brown scarecrow hat, fly my pretties, where is it getting them? Especially if it's supposed to be processing current and accurate information.
It can't just be misremembering the current reality if it seems to have access to this other alternative information set. That strongly supports Evan's argument that this isn't just about individual faulty human brains.
Which leads us straight into the really significant implications of what Evan's documenting here.
His central argument, based on these AI interactions, is powerful. If an AI, supposedly free of human cognitive flaws, consistently mirrors these widespread human false memories,
then it provides compelling evidence, at least within this investigative framework, that the Mandela effect might originate from something outside of individual human minds.
if the AI's data, its truth, derived from analyzing vast amounts of information, contains or favors these alternative details.
It suggests these alternative details have some kind of existence or weight in the information space the AI is tapping into. It implies the phenomenon isn't purely psychological or internal to humans.
This is where Evans' theories come in, the ones mentioned in the source material ideas like reality residue.
Right, or editing happening at some point in time, or even a merging of timelines.
And he finds these ideas more plausible than, say, simple time travel or basic parallel universes, partly because of the nature of these lingering alternative details, the residue.
Exactly. It's the specific details that persist the wrong, quote, the different color, the non-existent scene, and the way the AI struggles to reconcile them with current facts. It's not just recalling a different past cleanly, it's interacting with information that seems to represent a past that was, but somehow isn't the present reality anymore. The AI's confusion mirrors the human experience of the ME.
And this whole approach, using AI this way, is why we're calling Evans' work pioneering. It's a completely novel method.
Absolutely. He's not just collecting more anecdotes. He's using this advanced AI as a potential non-human data point. A probe, really.
He's systematically testing it against known Mandela effects, meticulously documenting the whole exchange, the initial error, the correction, the weak excuses, the contradictions, the evasions.
That documentation is key. It's a unique contribution to both AI research and Mandela Effect studies. He's using the AI almost like a mirror. Do these collective false memories show up in a non-human system that processes data differently? And if they do, what does that suggest about the data itself?
It shifts the whole debate, doesn't it? It goes beyond just, do humans misremember, to, does this supposedly objective data processor reflect the same specific discrepancies? And if so, why? What does that tell us about the information landscape, maybe even reality?
It's a profound question, tackled with a really innovative tool.
Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground here, really diving deep into Evans' investigation of the AI and the Mandela effect.
It's been fascinating to unpack, and the main takeaway from his transcripts seems really clear and, frankly, pretty startling.
Which is?
You have an AI specifically designed for accuracy, explicitly claiming it's immune to human memory flaws. Yet it consistently, repeatedly presents information that aligns perfectly with common Mandela effects, the incorrect versions held collectively by many humans.
And when challenged, it can't adequately explain why it made those specific errors. It defaults to weak excuses, blames human processes it claims not to share, or just deflects.
Right. So based on the evidence Evan presents in these sources, this AI behavior strongly suggests the Mandela effect might be far more complex than just simple memory slips in individuals or groups.
The AI acting as a mirror for these alternative details points towards something potentially affecting the information itself, historical records, maybe even consensus reality, just as Evan argues.
It really does. This pioneering work, using AI as a probe like this, just opens up a Pandora's box of questions. Questions about memory, sure, but also about information integrity, shared reality, and even the fundamental nature of the AI itself and what data it's truly accessing.
It's genuinely cutting-edge stuff for exploring such a baffling phenomenon.
Agreed.
And because this work is so groundbreaking, we are definitely going to reach out to MoneyBags73, to Evan. We'd love to see if he'd be willing to call in for a future deep dive.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Hearing directly from him about these interactions, his process, his further thoughts, that would be incredibly valuable.
We'll see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, for you listening, here's the final thought to chew on, building directly on this conversation.
Yeah.
Take a moment. Think about some of those specific details we discussed today. The movie lines, the logos, the historical details. How confident are you really in your own memory of them? And then let yourself consider this. What would truly mean if those errors, those discrepancies between your vivid recollection and what's verifiably true now?
What if they don't originate solely inside your own head? What if they reflect something else, something external, influencing the information we all share?
That's a heavy thought to end on. Makes you question a lot.
It certainly does. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.